Right. What I'm going to do now is talk a little bit about the innate Dhamma, something which I teach. Some of you have come across the Buddhism. Some of you are just learning. So I want to talk about the things, if you like, the practical Buddhism, that means what we can learn from Buddhism and use it. Right. Different people see the Buddha as a philosopher, religious teacher, right? And I see Buddhism or the Buddha as a self-help guru, right? So you can think of him as kind of the first self-help guru. He teaches us, ways of reducing our suffering. He teaches us, finally how to get enlightened. Or he teaches us how to get rid of our defilements. Right? Defilements are emotions that create suffering in us. Things like greed, hate, and delusion. Right? You can see the Buddha, in any way you want, right? But through his teaching. But the way I see him is that he is somebody who helps us to understand ourselves, right? So I take him as a self-help guru, he tried to teach me a way of getting rid of my suffering, or even better, to get enlightened. So depending, at which stage you are at and what you know. So I'm going to explain his teaching in this way, right? First of all, he gave us a view of how he sees the world, right? To use what he taught us, we have to use his system. We have to understand the structure in which he says our world is, right? So we have to understand what he meant when he talked about the facts of life. Okay, what he meant when he says Dhamma, what he meant when he talk about phenomena. Now I'm going to talk about the standard things that he says, and then I'm going to give you my view, my way of practicing. We have to start with the things that he taught, which everybody knows. And he talked about, first of all, the Four Noble Truths. There is suffering, if you can't see that there is suffering, it means you're avoiding suffering, right? As soon as suffering comes, you find something else to do that doesn't cause the suffering, right? So there is suffering. And the second noble truth is there is a cause of suffering. Right? Suffering arises due to a cause. It doesn't magically happen, that craving is the cause of suffering. Only craving is the cause of suffering. Third noble truth is there is an end of suffering. You may not believe that there is an end of suffering, but he has reached the end. He knows that there is an end of suffering. And finally, there is a path to the end of suffering, and that's the Eightfold Noble Path. Right? Then, if you like, the Eightfold Noble Path is a kind of heading, chapters which you have to go through to reduce suffering or to reach the end of suffering. The Eightfold Noble Path can be divided into three groups. One is morality or ethical living. Second one is meditation or concentration, developing the mind. And the last is insight, gaining wisdom. Okay? I do not want to go into this theory of it, you can read about it. What I'm going to talk about is something much more practical, right? Uh, what I'm going to talk about is much more detailed. The important details in his teaching in which we can use. This important detail is something simple, something we know, we can know. And the first is that we have to have a certain degree of ethical way of behaving, because if we behave in an unethical way, then we suffer a kind of guilt, and that is going to cause remorse or a guilty mind, an unhappy mind, and an unhappy mind cannot practice meditation, because all this guilt will be coming out. So the first part is keeping the five precepts. Right? There's the five precepts of ethical living. Abstain from killing. Right? So in this aspect, when you abstain from killing beings, that is, if you like, a level of beings, like a mosquito, a mouse, a cat, a horse, and a human being, So different beings, different creatures, will involve different reactions to us, or karma, So pests and vermin are something, uh, because of the way they live in this world, uh, they are considered as pests, and vermin, and then we try our best not to kill them, to abstain from killing them. If we can't, then um, the karma or the guilt, that we get is very little. Right? The second aspect is not taking what that belongs to us. Abstain from taking anything that doesn't belong to us. That's it. And third is sexual misconduct. Then I let you figure out what it is yourself. Anything that you think that you involved in that and you feel guilty, that's most likely that's wrong. Okay. The fourth is to abstain from telling what is not true. And it also involves in typing or putting information in the World Wide Web that is not true, because you are going to mislead some people. Not everybody who use the internet is as smart as you. Some people are very gullible, right? So you yourself try to avoid, not not saying anything that is not true. Okay, in your speech or when you're communicating using the World Wide Web. And lastly is do not take anything that will cause heedlessness of the mind. I mean, the worst is to take drugs, uh, and when you come to drinking alcohol, so long as you know your limit, uh, you are okay. So at which point, when you start saying, I'm not drunk, that's probably the point, you have exceeded that. Okay. So you have to be mindful, you have to be aware. So these are five things, 5 precepts you have to keep. If you break up the precept, then you feel guilty. And the guilt continues, right? Until you're able to resolve it, and breaking the 5 precepts also have consequences, depending on what you take, which doesn't belong to you, there are certain consequences. So I suppose if you take a car that doesn't belong to you, then there is a bigger consequences. So that's karma. Okay, so that's the first thing. Now the second aspect is the developing of concentration and mindfulness. That's what you do with practicing samatha meditation. You develop the concentration and mindfulness through walking meditation and sitting meditation. What you develop is concentration and awareness or mindfulness. Okay. And concentration, you know what it is. It means focus. That means you keep your mind on to whatever you are doing at that particular time. When you are studying, you're concentrated, whether you're solving a problem or trying to figure out, what that sentence means, that is concentration. Mindfulness is different. Mindfulness is close to awareness. Mindfulness is just imagine you're sitting here where you are, and then imagine that you are looking from the back. You're behind yourself, and you're aware of what's in front of you. So mindfulness is this kind of awareness. But it is actually a recollection. Right. Now just imagine, can you see this, whatever that's in front of you? Imagining you're seeing it from the back. You are at the back, standing behind you, and you're seeing a bit of your own body, and then the whole view of you. That is mindfulness. In mindfulness, you know what's going on in the view in front of you. Okay, so it's different. Mindfulness is different. People mistaken mindfulness for carefulness. Carefulness is not mindfulness. Carefulness is more related to concentration. Mindfulness is just being aware, knowing what's going on. Okay? So we have ethical behavior, developing the mind, samatha meditation, finally developing insight, wisdom. Right? So what I'm going to talk about is the last bit, which is developing insight. Okay. We live in this world. So the first thing we need to know is what is the world? We know we exist here and now. We want to know what we are. That's the first thing. An insight into ourselves and about our world. So we have to have a structure of understanding the world and ourselves. That's taught by the Buddha, you know. So in the beginning, you can say, simple, there is the material world. If you study physics, it's all about material world. How particles react to one another. If you study chemistry, it's the same thing as well. You know, so physics is all about the physical world. So that in our world, we know there is material form. And there is also immaterial form. Right? We call the mind. Okay? So in this world, we can say there is mind and body. Right? Simple. Mind and body, or mind and material form. So, you know, the table in front of you is just material form. Right? It's molecules, that's about it. Then you can see that a plant or a tree is mostly material form, right? So we are made up of mind and body. Okay, so there is mind and body in this world. Right? So body is something very simple. You know, we all know it's made of molecules and that different types of molecules, and that's it. In the Buddhist time, the science is only about four great elements: something that's solid, something that's liquid, something that has a fire element, and something that has an air element. What it means is something that is solid, earth, they call it the earth element. They call the water element is something that's liquid. The fire element is something that has heat in it, and the air element is something that has movement in it. You know, okay. So long as we know that material form is either solid, liquid, It has energy or heat in it, and whether it moves or not. That's okay. That's enough to know. This is something we can directly experience. Something is solid or liquid, we know. Something that has movement, we use our hand, we can feel it. Something that is hot or cold, we can also know through our body. Of the world, of our physical world. We also know within our body there are solid elements, there are liquid elements, right? And there is a heat element, and there is wind or movement. Okay, so these are things we can know through contact with our body, or we can know within our body. So we also know that our body or anything in the world is made up of parts. So whether it's a car or a motorcycle, they are all made up from little parts. Exhaust pipe, steering wheel, seat, so on. They're made of parts. We are also made up of parts. With an eye, with an ear, with hands, with skin, with a skeleton. You have blood, that's parts. You have a stomach, you have a heart, you have lungs, you have hair. Those are all the parts that we have. So this the first thing to know about material form is that it is made up of parts. Right. So if you have a hand with 6 fingers on it, do you still call it a hand? If you have hand, and you have web, between the fingers, do you call it a hand? Right. So we apply a name to the parts. Right. The name and the parts are different. It's like a car. They're all cars, but you have a different name for each type of cars, or even each model of cars. Right. Just because we like to distinguish between all the different cars or the different models of a particular car. So you go to a supermarket nowadays, you cannot say, I want to buy bread, Right? You say, can you get me a loaf of bread? He doesn't know what to do, whether you want a white bread, brown bread. It's easy. 20 years ago, you say bread, they just get you a loaf of bread. But today, you have to specify, exactly what sort of bread. You just can't get coffee, there's no such thing as coffee nowadays. In the olden days, yes, we know what a cup of coffee is. Now, people don't understand what coffee is. There's no such generic thing. Well, there is a generic thing called coffee, So you have a cappuccino, espresso, latte, That's it. So this is what material form is. You know, we start making distinguish. We start to distinguish. Make them special, make them different, because that's the way our mind likes them. So you have to know the difference between what is just coffee and what is different types of coffee. Right? But in the end, they are all just coffee, or they are all just material form. Okay? So what the Buddha taught us is that we have reduced it to its fundamental quality, that they are just material form. So there's no difference between coffee, a table, and even like a tree. They are material form. There's no difference between piece of metal, a car, and a house. They are all material form. They're solid objects. On top of this material form, we impose our concept on it. So whether it is a stool or a side table, it depends on your concept of it. Some stool looks like a side table, some side table looks like a stool. So we define it by function, how we use them. So a piece of cloth is just a piece of cloth, but you can call it a tea towel, you can call it a dishcloth, you can call it a face towel. Right? So we define all these things according to the function, the way we use them. So this is our own way of defining things. So there's a difference between what we call conventional reality and absolute reality. So what the Buddha taught is to reduce or to see everything for ourselves as absolute reality. That is a cloth. Conventional reality follows the convention. Means by agreeing that this is a dishcloth, it is not a face towel. Right? So dishcloth, face towel, tea towel are conventional reality. It is a reality. You do not want to use a dishcloth as a face towel, nor do you want to use a face towel as a dishcloth, because you're going to offend somebody, right? If you misuse it, right? So if you wash that towel, then you can say, I'm going to use it as a dishcloth, or I'm going to use it as a face towel. Right? So convention reality is a reality. We all agree right? We all agree on this convention. When you go to someone's house, you got to follow their convention, whether you like it or not, because that's their reality. In the East, in Asian countries, we take off our shoes before going into the house. That's a convention. In the West, we walk in with our outdoor shoes. We don't take off our shoes. That's a convention. Right? It is not right. It is not wrong. Right? It is just a convention. So whether you drive on the right side of the road or you drive on the left side of the road, that is also a convention adopted by that particular country. So it's not right or wrong. So you call that conventional realities are conventional truth as well. So that's the first thing you have to know, that there are conventional truths and that are absolute truth. So what we know about the world is just conventional truth and conventional reality. So everything is by convention. Just like say, do you call a six hand, a webbed hand, still a hand, Okay, so it is convention. Now we're going to talk about absolute reality. Like I say, the Buddha taught material form is absolute reality. Mind is absolute reality. So you can say that in this world, there are mind and matter, things that are made of mind and matter. And there are things that are just matter. So we are made of mind and matter, right? So the mind part is divided into just four aggregates, it's called. Right? Aggregates is, if you like, A group, a combination, E group. So Buddha divided simply into, there is a group, a aggregate called feelings. Right? What you feel is feeling, as simple as that. Right? Okay, so you're feeling jealousy, so that is jealousy. That's a feeling. Worry is a feeling. Envy, anger, happiness. These are all feelings. This is something you know. So that's the aggregate of feeling, right? And there is the things that you perceive, right? Music, right? Uh, Pictures, paintings. These are things that you perceive. Perception. Okay? So when you taste something, you also perceive what you taste. You perceive this is hot, this is sweet, this is sour. Right? That's a perception. So if you're deaf, you can't perceive sound. You have no clue what sound is. Right? So that's aspect. We have feelings, we have perception. And then the third one, which everybody knows, we have thoughts. Right? Thinking, thoughts, views. Okay, so we know these three: feelings, perceptions, because we have, if you like, the five senses or six senses, we have perception. Then we have thoughts, we have views. We express our thoughts, we express our views. Right. So in Pali, material form is called rupa. Feelings are called vedana. Perceptions are called sanya. Thoughts and views are called sankhara. Third one is called vinyana. The fourth one is called, or the fourth mind element, mind aggregate is called vijnana. That means consciousness. Consciousness is something simple in the sense that it is because we are aware of visual object, we have visual consciousness. A tree do not have visual consciousness. A table do not have visual consciousness. We have visual consciousness because, if you like, we have an eye. Right? There is light. We can see the visual form because we have visual consciousness. A dead person have eyes. They are visual objects in light. But because a dead person doesn't have visual consciousness, they don't see. Okay? We have visual consciousness because we are aware of visual objects. As simple as that. You can say because we are aware of visual objects, we therefore have visual consciousness. A blind person do not have visual consciousness or partial visual consciousness or partial, is partially aware, So a totally blind person is not aware of visual object. Right? So either is he definitely have visual consciousness, but the face or the eye is not uh, performing well. Okay, so we have taste consciousness because we are aware of taste. We have audio consciousness because we are aware of sound. We are aware of tactile sensation because we have body consciousness. Right? Because we are aware of different sense, we have consciousness related to smell. Okay, so we have this five consciousness. We also have a mental consciousness as well, because we are aware of mind objects. You're aware of what's going on in our mind. It is because we are aware of what's going on in our mind. We have mental consciousness. Okay, because every living being has these part six consciousness, including the mind. So our scent consciousness, our awareness of smell, is different from a dog's awareness of smell. Right? So our visual awareness is different from a dog's visual awareness. Our visual awareness is different from a bird's visual awareness. You see that the birds are able to see ultraviolet light. It is the makeup of the eye and, if you like, the mind that able to see ultraviolet that we cannot see. Okay, so that's what consciousness is about. Awareness. Right? Awareness is conscious. We cannot see with our ear. Right? Nor can we hear with our eyes. Simple as that. Each consciousness, its base of consciousness has a particular job to do. That is awareness. Okay, so these are what you call absolute reality or fundamental reality. Okay, I'm going to stop here and see if anybody has any question. So I want you all to go away, first of all, to learn the meditation, right? And secondly, to recollect what I've said about conventional reality, conventional truth, absolute reality, absolute truth, right? Or fundamental truth, that's all. The one thing I want to emphasize when we talk about the absolute reality or fundamental truth or fundamental reality, right? It is not a definition of the world. Although we use absolute reality, what we are saying is by using this system, this structure of seeing mind and body, that there are four parts in the mind, or four aggregates, or four groups in the mind. They are feeling, perception, thoughts, views, and consciousness. We are using this fundamental groups to enable us to reduce our suffering, to enable us to maybe get enlightened as well, right? So it is a path in itself. It is not talking about what the world is absolutely made of. It is not a philosophy. It is not a science. It is a path towards ending suffering. Understand that? Clear about that? You got to be clear about that.
If
Does
anyone,
everybody understand what I'm saying? Okay, good. So it is a system we use, right? Okay.
Is that correct? Is that correct to say is a liberation from all suffering? The goal of learning Buddhism or Buddhist studies. Oh, is that correct to say it's a liberation from all suffering? This is the reason we learn about Buddhism.
To eliminate suffering.
Tanajan, the question is, what is the final aim of this practice? Is it the liberation from all suffering?
The end is liberation from all suffering, yes. But in the beginning, we can reduce our suffering. Right? In that, what we are interested in now is reducing our suffering. Right? To end all suffering, we have to reach liberation, which is the end of all suffering. Right? It involves knowing a little bit more than what we know now, right? Because it involves a deeper knowledge, involves a deeper understanding, right? Why we are here in the first place, right? We are starting now. We are here. We want to reduce this suffering. Right. When we know more about this, when we've adopted the method, then we can strive a little bit more and find out why we are here. Right. If I tell you why we are here, it's just a view. Right. But when you practice, then you come to know why we are here. Simply put, why we are here, because we crave to exist. Listen, simple. You crave to be born. So that involves, believing, in that, but we do not want to go into that. We want to come to know for ourselves why we are here. To come to know that, we have to know this fundamental first. Okay, so to answer your question, liberation is the end of suffering. So the question is, what are you liberated from? And the answer is that you're liberated from your own self-deception. And that self-deception is the illusions that you have created. Right? I guess a bit more complicated, if I give you the answer like that. But slowly in this course, you will come to understand how this self-deception arises, how this illusion arises. But in the beginning, we got to start from this foundation of knowing, that we start from this structure, material form and mind. Okay.
Can Tanajan explain a bit more about the difference between understanding these things as a view and knowing it? Why do we call it knowing, and how is it different from understanding?
Okay. Understanding is through concept and inferring, and a logical process. Understand comes through listening, from reading. The example is this: if a child, you tell them, a small child, you tell them fire is hot. You explain to them why fire is hot. And they understand fire is hot, but they do not know that fire is hot until they put their hand in the fire. Once they know fire is hot, you cannot change their understanding, their knowing that fire is hot. No matter how you try to convince them that fire is not hot, they will know that the fire is hot. So knowing comes from direct experience through our senses. Right? Understanding is through concept. Right? Whatever that you have learned in university is an understanding. You understand about atoms, you understand about molecules, right? To know what is solidity, we have to directly experience it. To know what anger is, we have to directly experience it. You may write a book on anger, but if you have not directly experienced anger, you do not know. To know how hot chili is, you have to taste it. Even though you read 3 books about how hot the chili is, about the chemical reactions on your tongue and everything, you just understand that. So that's the difference. Knowing comes from direct experience. You do not know what grief is until you have experienced grief. You may read about grief, but your heart doesn't know. So the knowing actually comes. You can say, we can divide ourselves into mind and heart. Right? So the heart knows what grief is. You know what heartbreak is. That is real direct knowing. Okay, so you don't really know the saltiness of salt without tasting salt, or the sweetness of chocolate or sweet chocolate before tasting chocolate. So that's directly experienced. Okay.
So Tanajan, in practice, so we practice the meditation, breath meditation, and then to know directly when these things arise in daily life, should we develop mindfulness to know that this is anger, this is greed, like that?
Yes. How do you practice that? The way we do that is mind seeing mind. So we have this mental consciousness. Then we see what arises in our mind. So you want to stay with the mental consciousness and be aware what's arising in our mind or in our heart, if possible. Okay, so that's part of mindfulness. Mindfulness and clear comprehension. Mindfulness, you know something is arising, but you do not know. Clear comprehension is knowing exactly what arises, what's the cause of the arising of this particular feeling or particular thought. Okay, so in our daily practice, with a developed mind through samatha meditation, we come to know about what is arising in our mind, what the reason for the rising of this. We know the intention of our real intention of our speech, the real intention of our action. These are much later when we have mindfulness, which reaches the state of clear comprehension. Okay? What's the difference between mindfulness and clear comprehension? It's just that a person is aware that they are putting a hot pot of coffee on the table. That's mindfulness. Clear comprehension is when they put that hot pot of coffee, will the glass table crack? That's clear comprehension. That means clear comprehension means knowing the results of your action. So you may have mindfulness, carefully or mindfully putting the hot pot of coffee or tea onto the glass table, but you don't have this clear comprehension to know that the glass table will crack. Okay, so clear comprehension is knowing the results of your speech, knowing the result of your action, and also knowing the intention of your speech, knowing intention of your action. Intention and result, or knowing the cause of your action, knowing the cause of your speech. So all that's comes automatically through the strength of your mindfulness. That's clear comprehension. That is something you want to develop. You want to develop comprehension, clear comprehension through mindfulness. Okay?
Okay, thank you, Tanaja. More questions? Seems there are no more questions, Tanaja.
Okay, no more questions. That's fine. What time do you all finish? Is it
9:30.
what time is it now?
9:37, Tanaja.
Okay, we can finish that. Okay. And next week I'll see how you all get on with your meditation. Then I'll explain a bit more about this what they call the five aggregates, the five khandhas. Explain a bit more on the causes of those five aggregates. Okay, the cause and result. We want to clearly comprehend the five aggregates. Okay.
Okay, thank you so much, Tanajan, for giving us teachings and joining us very early in the morning. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. See you next time. Thank you.
Okay, then. Good night, everybody. Then.
Thank you. Have a good day, Tanajan.